James Dillet Freeman.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I don't care whether I'm a gift or an antique or whatever you make of me. I have been around a long time, and I never expected to be here. I did come here in 1929, but had no thought that I'd be here for more than a summer's job. And but when I got out of school, it was the bottom of the Depression, there were no jobs. And interestingly, Myrtle, of course, was dead by then. But Cora Fillmore, Charles' second wife, came and said, Jim, would you like to work in Silent Unity? And she said, if you just go to church on Sunday and ask Mr. Fillmore, I think he'd give you a job. So I did go and ask him. And he said, well, you'll have to ask May Rowland. So May told me that later, she said, we didn't think you'd stay for any period of time, but we talked it over with my associates, but we thought we couldn't lose very much on it. And I said, considering what they were paying me, they couldn't have lost anything. Well, I have written a lot of things for Unity, and I enjoy doing it, and I'm still doing it, and I will be doing it as long as I'm alive, because I'm a writer. Fundamentally and basically, I'd rather write than do anything else in my life. It's my real joy. I like to talk. Yeah, you know why I like to talk? Because you get a response. You know, you people all stood up. And I thought, yeah, that's great, they're all standing up. And they applaud. Writers don't get applause. You write the stuff, and really, most of the time, you don't know whether people liked it or didn't like it. You don't hear. In my case, I'm lucky. I get a lot of letters. But many writers get nothing. And many people write poetry, for instance, nobody even knows they wrote it. And maybe until years after they're dead, if they ever know it. The writer just writes. He really writes out of himself. Not particularly for, I guess a lot of writers want a response. That's the main thing. They think, how can I make this fit the audience? But a lot of writers don't do that. They write what's in them. And I've done that all my life. I just found a place where I could do that and make a living. One time, Charles Fillmore did come to me and said, when I first went to work here, he said, young man, you ought to find something practical to do in your life. He didn't know that he was making it practical for me to be what I wanted to be by giving me a job where I could do it. Wasn't that wonderful? I have a great belief, a really great belief. And in a way, it's a love belief, because love is to give. If love, the main definition of love almost is give, another little four-letter word. But I've thought all my life, because it worked for me, because you know there can't be anything harder in the world than for a poet to make a living. He's at the bottom of the whole economic barrel, folks. He's under opera singers and ballet dancers and all the rest of it. But I believe this, that if you will do what is yours to do, really do it. It takes courage, I guess, or it takes insanity, I don't know which. But if you'll do that, life will provide you the means to do it. It's done it for me. And the interesting thing is, when I came to this place, and I came back in 1933 when I finished school, I had no intention of staying here. The last thing I wanted to do was to work for a religious organization. I was a young male who wanted to do entirely different things. But the first day, love kept me here. The very first day I came to work here, a young lady came up to me and she said, Jim, a group of the fellas and a group of the girls are going out to Unity Village, this farm then, as Rosemary says. And the boys have rented a cabin and the girls have rented a cabin. And I know the boys would like to have you with them. And I have a car. I'd be glad to take you. And a year later, approximately that, we got married. And that made the big difference in my life. I'm certain it's what kept me in this place. Because I didn't want to stay here. I tried to get away once or twice, but I was not permitted to. I don't really believe in plans, but life is a great paradox, folks. And somehow I was free. Nobody in the world could convince me that I'm not a free soul. Nobody. Because I believe we have to be or nothing makes sense. But at the same time, it well could be, God knows everything's ever going to happen to you. He knows everything. But he knows that this is the paradox. Nevertheless, you're free. You determine your life. I have to believe that, or life doesn't have much meaning. You're just puppets. I don't want to be a puppet. I refuse to be. If we're puppets, God can have his ticket back. I don't believe that. But I do believe that his love enfolds us, and I was meant to be here because I could give something to this place. And it's all I've ever wanted to do is to give something to it. I love this place. I'm glad I stayed. It's meant my life. And both the women that I married worked here. And they were a great gift to me. They made my life as much as this place did. Because they lived this teaching as much as any two people I've ever known, both of them. They were unity. And I'm so grateful I got them and so grateful I have this place. You know, it's easy to talk about love. It's hard to live it. It shouldn't be. It ought to be the easiest thing we can do because I know we're meant to do it. We are absolutely meant to love because when we're not living a loving life, it's not much of a life at all. It stinks. And a good deal of the time, we're not living a loving life. We're living this little narrow, self-grabbing life that we live. And it's what's wrong with the whole world. It's a miserable life when you're not in love. More and more I've become convinced that the only life worth living is a life of love. It may be hard, but it's worth trying. I used to say that there are only three things that are worth any human beings really trying to do. And one of them is to create beauty. And another is to seek the truth. And another is to love. And I used to tell people that in this life, I was going to do everything I could to create beauty, and I have. And that I was going to seek the truth with all my heart, and I've done that pretty hard. Can't say that I've found too much of it, but I have sought it. Well, you know, part of finding truth is seeking it. Maybe that's the whole essence of it. Because whatever you find, there's always going to be more to find. And if you don't go looking for it, you're not going to find much. You're going to settle for little truths. I don't want to settle for little truths. I want to settle for a truth that my whole heart, my whole mind will say, yeah, I believe this. And I've sought for that most of my life. I wrote a poem once about those three. A girl once told me she really liked this and she wanted me to fix it for her. It isn't that great a poem, but it's got a great idea in it. I said, beauty, truth, and love, these three, form life's holiest trinity. And I truly believe this. This is the real Trinity, beauty, truth, and love. Lay hold of one of them, the two others will lay hold of you. Beauty is beautiful because it is true to nature's laws. And truth, if it be true, will glow with beauty past all gaudy show. For truth is truest when above all else it most resembles love. Of all that we may find on earth, nothing else has so much worth as beauty, truth, and love. These three give meaning to the mystery. And I believe this. I used to tell people, though, that, okay, I was going to work for beauty, I was going to work for truth, but I'd wait for another life for love. It was hard, and I wasn't ready. I thought beauty and truth is enough to struggle for. But I've come to feel that you got to struggle for love, too. I don't know whether I'll make it. Charles Fillmore, I've heard him say in classes. See, I used to came to South India and taught classes every week. He'd come once a week. And I've heard him say in those classes, well, I've got a lot of things, but I don't have all the love that I'd like to have. I haven't developed enough love in this life. And who has? I've never known anybody that was that loving. I've known some very loving people. And I've envied them. Because I'd like to be that loving, because I do think it's the only thing that really makes life worthwhile. No matter what it brings into your life. And maybe it doesn't bring nothing but happiness. Maybe it brings pain. It's brought a lot of it into my life. But it's the only life worth living. And in that pain, I'd rather live. I wrote a piece here once about love. I said, this, my life, and my struggle to be loving have taught me that even a little love, which is all I've ever felt I had, though it may bring me hills to climb and burdens to carry, though it may sometimes be a way of tears and renunciation, nevertheless, it is more to be sought after than all the non-love there is in this world. And this is certain, that having loved only maybe the little as I feel at least that I've loved, though only a little, I would not go back to a life without love, whatever rewards or riches it might seem to offer. It would be like going back to being a caterpillar once you've put on the wings of a butterfly. And that's the way I feel about love. Oh, I've learned it. You know, I've had these 2 wives, and they spoiled me sick. Billy spoiled me so badly that her friends used to say, you're a traitor to the female sex. And she did this for 30 years. And finally, I had to spoil her for 10 years. And in those 10 years, I learned a lot about life. More than maybe I've learned in all the 70 or so that I had before. And I learned that, hey, this is what it's all about, Jim. And this is what makes life worthwhile. Giving in love. Because I had to do that. And she taught me, because many troubles as she had in all this time. And she got finally to the place where she couldn't communicate to me at all. You couldn't tell what she was saying. You know. But one thing she said over and over, and you never had any problem with that, she would look at you and smile. To everybody who came into that house. And she would say, I love you. And she said it all her life. We would walk down the street, and strangers would pass. And she would reach out toward them if she could, and she would say, I love you. And they'd look at us kind of strangely sometimes. But they didn't look as if they minded. I don't imagine anybody really minds being told, I love you. Do you? I love you. You don't mind, do you? Yeah, I wrote a poem about this. I brought a couple poems. You know, why not? This was on the back of Daily Word. And I said, if thoughts had shapes like things, I always wrote these poems to try to go with the front cover. Now, this is what they like me to do. If thoughts had shapes like things, I wonder what they'd be. Would wonder not be wings, and reverie a seed? If hope looked like a seed, would lilies grow for grace? Would worry be a weed? Despair a barren space? Would thoughts of truth not find a rainbow's radiant form? And would not peace of mind be sunlight after storm? And love, What shape would show love? Patient, warm, and true. All you I love, I know that love would look like you. What else could it look like? I'm writing 2 books. It's the only way I survived, folks. When my first wife died, the only way I could survive, we were married for 14 years, was because I was utterly devastated by that. We were still young people. And to lose her, the most beautiful woman I'd ever known, was a fantastic blow. For instance, but see, out of these things come good things. I wrote I Am There when she was dying. I went into the healing rooms down at 9th and Tracy then and sat down to pray, and God spoke to me. I'm always listening for an inner voice, but that morning, the voice was as clear as mine is right now. And it said, do you need me? I am there. And then wrote the rest of it, and I simply took out an envelope and wrote all those things down. No thought of there being anything. In fact, when I read them later, I thought, that's so abstract and so mystical, nobody will want it. But I showed it to the editor of Daily Word several months later, and she said, let's print it, Jim. I'm glad we did, because it's meant so much to so many people ever since, but it came out of love. And many of the things I've written came out of love. It's a great inspiration. You know, it does wonderful things to you. Even though, as I say, you're hurting. Because I was hurting that morning. But something good came out of it. And that's the very nature of love, to produce good. 2 people get together, and it produces good. It may produce unbelievable good. Who knows what will come out of this union? Maybe something 10,000 years from now that will change the whole world. That's the nature of love. Think of it, the great promise that it gives. And completely unfolding, no limit, no end. Oh, I've become more and more, these 10 years have made me think the only thing worth living, the only thing worth trying to get in this world is love. And if we do, it's the whole message of Jesus. I don't think he had any other message. That's all he came to tell us. Love one another. He says in there, you know, when they were all trying to say, which of us is going to be chief in the kingdom, boss? He said, you guys don't understand what I'm here for at all, do you? You've missed it. And he says, not if you're this, not if you're that, but if you have love one for another. And that's all it is. And if we get it, I'm convinced of this too. The reason Jesus could do all the miracles that he did, he didn't see the world you and I see, because we don't look with eyes of love. He looked with eyes of love. And when he looked with eyes of love, he could not see the things we see, because he knew that a God who is love would not produce these evils. No way love could do that. And so he saw that person the way he truly was in God's eyes. Healed. And they were healed. And I feel that's what we have to learn to do. I want to write 2 books. I'm writing a book of, I've almost got it done. A book of poems, the poems I wrote to meet Catherine's death. They're not happy poems. I suffered. And my suffering and her suffering is in it. But I wrote those 45 years ago, but I've always wanted to publish them, never felt I could. And then all the years I was married to Billy, I wrote her love poems. And I'm going to put them together and make a book out of them. I've done it. It's practically finished. Not quite. Because I want to put 1 or 2 things in it that aren't there. I've got help. An editor that I met who he likes it too. And then I want to write a book about Jesus Christ. I've never had much feeling for Jesus Christ. I was never sure he even existed. Maybe I'm still not. But what he stands for exists. And what he symbolizes exists. And I want to write it. I've come to feel this man really came to teach us the truth. And what's that truth? Yeah. God is love. I don't think anybody else ever taught this before. But he taught. God is love. And you have to love one another. That's the only way. How do you show faith in a God that's love? You love one another. That's the only way you can do it. And when we do that, we're going to make this a great world. Isn't your world a little happier this afternoon than it was yesterday afternoon? But think about your own lives, all of you. Weren't the greatest moments in it moments of love? Even if it was pain, weren't they the greatest moments when you were in love with something? Life could be a dull process, folks, a good deal of the time, but not when you're in love. And I think if we really learn to live by love, we're going to find the world is transformed. And it doesn't take that much. I don't think my book is going to utterly change the world, in 15 minutes. But if it can get us to live just a little bit more like love, that's all it takes. If we could think of other human beings and put them first in our lives for maybe 10% of the time more than we do now, wouldn't this whole world become a paradise? The kingdom of heaven on earth? It would take such a little love. And we wouldn't live a worse life, folks. The whole 6 billion of us would live a better life. Oh, much better. All the resources are here. All it takes to bring them into actuality in our lives is love. And nothing will change until we love one another. It's going to be the same world. As long as we're full of ourselves. It can never be anymore. So this is what we've got to do, and it's the whole thing as far as I'm concerned. We have to love one another. Love has to start in you and me. There is no rain of love that comes down from above. God is love, but he doesn't send it. God's love must always start in someone's human heart. And those human hearts are yours. So I know you people are wanting to be loving. And many of you are living very loving lives. You are if you're serving those children and you're teaching those Sunday school. It takes a lot of love to teach a Sunday school. Yeah, right. It's like a story I remember where the child in Sunday school misbehaves, and so the teacher calls the girl to several and says, "What does your mother do?" She's trying to think, what should I do to punish her? "What does your mother do to you when you misbehave?" And she says, "She spanks me." She asked another girl, "What does she do to you?" "She makes me sit in the corner." "And what she do to you?" she asked the third girl. She says, "She makes me go to Sunday school." It takes a lot of love. And I know you have it. And I know you are going to help this world become the world of love that Jesus Christ meant it to be. Because you are going to love one another. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love you.